Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I am back with another review. And this is one that was a long time coming because we are taking a look at the Walmart exclusive, at least for 2020, Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man and Skeletor. This is a line that, come 2021, will be available at all retailers, online and brick and mortar. But as I said, right now is exclusive to Walmart. With that said, I was able to get He-Man and Skeletor off of eBay from a kind seller who was selling them at cost, unlike pretty much everybody else who is, doing massive markups. These are like, I want to say, under $20 at Walmart, and people were selling them for 50, 75, even over $100. These are figures that are based on the original Masters of the Universe toys, with a little modernization in the sculpt. These are not supposed to be animation accurate yet. I think there's licensing issues between, not licensing, but rights issues, because Super 7 really does the Masters of the Universe Classics line now. And they've been doing filmation accurate, cartoon accurate versions of the figures. That's not to say somewhere down the line we will get figures like this with a more cartoon accurate head. And I kind of hope for that because these look nice, but I'm just so used to that cartoon look. So we'll pause and we'll take a look at each figure individually, starting off with, of course, He-Man. Okay, so here's He-Man, and if he looks a little bit different from the opening shot, well, that's because I'm showing off one of the nice little gimmicks that the figure can do. Um, as many of you might remember from the original Masters of the Universe figures, they basically had this, I don't want to say neutral body pose, what I call like a neutral aggressive body pose, where the knees were bent and the arms were bent in a sort of action pose, but it wasn't like an action feature. There were, the arms could move, the legs could swivel at the hip, and the head could rotate. And that's something that the figure can recreate here. If you bend it all the way in at the knee and swivel it up at the hips. Now, this isn't something mentioned on the packaging or in the instructions, but it is like an interesting feature. But then if you go ahead and straighten the legs out, bring them down, just like so, and there is like some faux ratcheting in the legs and elbows that some wasn't present on the original toys. You do get a going from 5 inches to 5.5 inches of height. I was a little disappointed by that because I originally was under the impression that the figures would start out at 5.5 inches of height and go to actually to 6 inches, which means these will be compatible with Marvel Legends, Black Series, Lightning Collection, Classified, most 6-inch scale collectible figures. But unfortunately, these come in a little short. Again, that might have something to do with Super 7 and the Masters of the Universe Classics line, which I actually have their releases of the Filmation He-Man and Skeletor, which were a little bit different from the Filmation releases done by Mattel. He-Man does come with a couple accessories. He comes with a shield and axe, which are in the packaging, and half of a power sword. Now, the shield and axe are in the packaging because, as a cartoon fan, I never really saw He-Man use them, but they are there, and, they do work. And he comes with half a power sword. Now, if you saw the original promo pictures, and especially what's shown on Walmart.com with their listing, you see that he was supposed to come with a full power sword. I think that was just done for the picture. It doesn't have the handguard. And this one, I've already combined with Skeletor's half of the power sword. Again, these are following the original toy designs and for the most part mythology, which means the power sword in the mini comics with the original Masters of the Universe toys was split in half because it was just so powerful. And by joining them together, that becomes the key to Castle Grayskull. So when the Castle Grayskull playset comes, which will be sometime I think early next year, even though it might be leaking out already, you can actually use this combined sword to open the drawbridge. But it does fit into a sheath here on the back of He-Man, and as you saw at the beginning, fits into his hand. The combined sword fits a lot better than, say, the separate sword parts. Now, to talk about articulation, the head is on a ball joint, just like so. Uh, the arms are on universal joints. They can rotate. And also, as another bonus feature, if you have the Masters of the WWE Universe Walmart exclusive figures, the limbs are detachable. The head pops off, the arms pop off, the whole shebang. That's for customization and making your own figures. I would not do that much because you can loosen the connection over time. I mean, I'm not something I plan on doing, but all the figures in this line can do that. The hand is on a rotation swivel, and it has an in and out wrist joint, and that's both hands. I'm a little disappointed by that because I would have hoped that with He-Man we would have gotten the up and down wrist articulation to do, otherwise known as the I have the power pose. But I do, and I would have liked to have seen some interchangeable hands, maybe giving He-Man some proper fists, for punching. There is a rotation here at the waist, no ab articulation at all. The legs can go forward and back out to the side, bend at the knee, swivel at the knee, swivel at the boot, and then up and down with ankle pivot. So it's articulated, but not overly heavily articulated like the classics figures. So yeah, I think it's a great figure. I had a lot of fun with it. I loved He-Man as a kid. The head is a little bit different than the original toy. I think it's a little bit closer to the original mini comic designs. So maybe down the line we can get like an accessory pack that'll give us different hands, something with that wrist motion, but maybe a toy accurate head as well as a cartoon accurate head. Because I think a cartoon accurate head on this body would look awesome. So we're going to move on and take a look at Skeletor. Is there a villain more iconic from the 1980s than Skeletor, at least in modern times? Because I've really seen on the internet, and I would say in the last 10 to 15 years, an increase in the love of Skeletor, quoting his lines from the cartoon. I mean, he was just so over the top, so great. I mean, all the 1980s cartoon villains were over the top, but I think Skeletor took it to a new level. And here we have the representation of the original toy, which, if I'm being honest, really shows the difference between the toy and the animation design. Because as you can see, he has like the three-pronged foot instead of the normal looking foot. And his head, he has a shorter cowl around his skull head instead of the longer hood. I mean, I guess that's for movement and stuff. Besides the Havoc staff, Skeletor does come with the half a power sword, which we already saw with He-Man. I put it together. Don't plan on taking it off. The web gear, I should also mention, on He-Man and Skeletor is removable if you want to swap that around. And much like He-Man, he does have his parts can be pulled apart and swapped around and all that stuff. I mean, again, it's not something I would plan on doing often, and it's something I would recommend you guys not doing because it can wear down the connections over time. Articulation is pretty much the same as He-Man. I just noticed that with Skeletor, he tends to have that what they call the hero pose with his lower abdomen thrusting out more. I find that, to help him stand and stuff. And on mine, I think the feet are just a hair looser, but nothing too bad. I mean, there is a lot of shared parts between him and He-Man, as was on the original toy. But I dig it. I love it. I'm looking forward to getting Battle Cat and Panther, even though I have my own Panther, as many of you know at home. That's my cat, and I would love to be able to get shot with Skeletor riding my cat. I mean, I'm sure she'll never speak to me ever again, but it is what it is. But yeah, a few things missing. There is no sheath for his half of the power sword, but that's kind of okay because I don't think he ever really used it. And I don't know. I really can't think of anything else that Skeletor could have come with outside of maybe a couple accessories from episode specific accessories. But again, I think that's something that's more in the domain of classics than origins, and really that's what we're dealing with. Of course, like He-Man, if you so desired, you can get him down in his little 1982 squat pose. I do have a harder time getting him to stand like this than, say, He-Man. Let's see if I can swivel it out more. There we go. Oh, actually, no, he's staying, but it's kind of cool, but definitely I would rather leave him up like this and just have a good old time with it. So, yeah, that's really about all I can say about these figures. So we'll pause, and I'll come back with my final thoughts. Had to do a little bit of a silly pose of Skeletor running away from He-Man. That head sculpt works. Like he's screaming, no, 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 and all that stuff. But definitely, like I said, these are fun figures, and I think they kind of bridge that gap between the retro 5 points of articulation Masters of the Universe figures that Super 7 are doing, and the really ultra articulated collectible classics figures that Super 7 and Mattel used to do that are still floating around out there. They're fun, and you can play with them. Like I said, I hope down the line we get some accessory packs that give you different hands, maybe some interchangeable heads. I know going forward we're going to get some deluxe figures that are going to be like there's going to be a Power Punch He-Man that's going to come with a couple different heads, a whole bunch of accessories. There's going to be the Skeletor that had like the giant claw hands and stuff like that. Both of them are getting their battle armor versions that I think will even the plates will change, like spring-loaded, like the original toy, or they're interchangeable. I don't remember. Basically, if you want to know what you're going to see in this line, look to the Masters of the WWE Universe, because if they're doing it there, you'll see it here. And let me tell you, this line is apparently selling really well. So, I mean, we've got some cool stuff coming. We've got a Ram Man coming. That's going to be a deluxe figure. We have some more vehicles coming. I mentioned Panther. The mass release is going to be your basic plastic Panther, but Target is going to have a special exclusive flocked version. It's just everything's wide open. I'm just really excited to grab some of my old favorites and pick up maybe some of the versions that I didn't have the original figure. I mean, I still like to grab Tila, Man-at-Arms, Evelyn. Evelyn I actually had, Beastman. Just really fun, and it's just I don't want to say silly, but it's silly in a good way because the cartoon was so over the top. Skeletor was such an over the top villain. It just So, like I said, for the remainder of 2020, these figures are going to be Walmart exclusives, even though because we're in December, you might start finding them on places like Amazon. I know a couple months ago, Amazon had pre-orders, and some people actually got them from Amazon. So there's that. You also might start finding them in stores, but I don't know if it'll be enough time for like a Christmas present. If you want to get them in time for Christmas, Walmart and Walmart.com is your best choice. You can get the Sky Sled, Battle Cat, and pretty much both Wave 1 and Wave 2 are out. I don't know if they're all online because they sell out very quickly. So there's that. But definitely pick one up, pick two up, grab the whole line if you're really insane. But that's about it. This is your old pal Chuck for He-Man and Skeletor. I have the power, and I'll see you next time.